Carolyn Doobie here. What's the play for today? Well, today I'm playing in my art journal, and this play was sparked by a gel print. Now, this was a print that I had lying around, and all of a sudden it caught my eye, and I was just in love with it today. I so wanted to use this all over this art journal page. I was positive I was going to use a ton of this in it. I couldn't wait to see how it was going to turn out. And by this build-up, you've probably already figured out that gel print, it may have started my play, but it didn't end up as the main part of my art journal page. Well, here's what I've got to start today's play. I have got an art journal page here that started with just a basic blue. I've got a gel print that I'm absolutely in love with, and I've got 3 printouts. These are collage images. They're from Tumblefish Studio and Hidden Vintage Studio. Now, I don't know where these things are going to go or which parts I'm going to use, but this is what's going to get me started playing today. So I picked the images that jumped out to me the most and are easy to cut out, like this sign. And I'm starting on the inside because I found it's generally easier to cut the inside or detail parts out first and then cut out the outside. And I can just use plain old scissors to do that. Now, when using something like a craft knife, it's highly recommended that you keep your blade changed frequently. That way you have a nice sharp blade. Do I have a nice sharp blade? Of course not. Do I change it frequently? Of course not, but I should. Now, as I'm cutting her out, this is going to be another case of do as I say, not as I do. Because I'm cutting out all around her, but I didn't cut out the little parts, the detail parts ahead of time. So all that means is I'm going to come in with the knife afterwards and cut out those itty bitty little openings between her arms and her arm and her body and her feet. And then I took a look and seeing if there was anything else that I liked that would be easy to cut out, and words that are rectangular are super easy to cut out, so I'm going to get some of those ready, and now it's time to try and decide where I want to put this on the page. So I'm going to audition stuff, I'm going to move it around, I'm going to see what talks to me, what speaks to me. Now this print that I absolutely adore that I made using a gel plate, this I so want to use in this page. Now keep in mind, I so want to use it, but for whatever reason, I'm just not totally feeling it. So I decided I'll just cut some of it out. I'll cut the shapes around it, see what that does for it. And as I put it on there, I got an immediate no way, no how. So I'm like, okay, I'll rip it. Now we'll see what happens. And as I'm doing this, I'm falling more and more in love with this print as it's ripped, but it totally does not work on this page in any way. So it's this odd thing where I love this thing and it's so not going to work for me. So I have to call this one an oops, an outstanding opportunity presenting suddenly. I loved that print before I ripped it up, but somehow there is an opportunity in ripping it up because I really love it this way too. So I may not use it on this page, but I'll set it aside and use it on something else. Well, so I need to bring something else in. So I decided she had this sort of Paris vibe. So I'm using my Opera House stencil from over at StencilGirl Products, and I'm going to put a little bit of a Parisian building here on it for her. Now, I don't want it to take over the whole page, and the cool part about stencils is you don't have to actually use the whole thing. You can pick and choose what parts you want to use. But now it became, what color do I want to use? And black was just, well, it's very strong, it's very black, and I didn't want something quite that black. So I decided to take a cue from the marquee frame there that has, it's a very dark teal. Now, I didn't have that exact color, but that's okay. I can make something dark. So I just took some black and some teal Dilutions paints, and I'm mixing together. That's going to give me a very, very dark color, but it's not going to be quite so black. So you can mix colors together to create the colors that you want for your page. Now, if you're not that comfortable with color mixing yet, or you don't have a full grasp on the color wheel and you would like to get that lickety-splickety, take a look over at my workshop called Art Journaling Fundamentals. In there, I'm going to explain to you how I approach colors, how I keep straight which colors can mix together and which ones I don't want to mix together, and how to use that to my advantage when not only making colors, but when choosing which ones I'm going to put on the page so that I know which ones will pop. But I'm not just going to talk about it, you're going to see it in action, and you're going to get specific prompts so that you can experiment and play with color. And there's a link down below in the video that'll take you to all the details about the workshop. Now, I keep checking this building, this stencil. I kept lifting it up and looking at it. Something's not quite right, but I don't know what it is. Something's not quite the way I want it to be yet. It's with the building, so I'm going to adapt that building a little bit, but I'm not quite sure how. Do I want it wider? Do I want it taller? And I realized I don't want it wider, but I do want it taller. So I am magically going to add some stories to this building by just stenciling over parts of it. And I'm just going to put a whole nother floor onto this building. So now there are 2 layers of it, and I'm actually feeling like there should be a 3rd one. So I'm going to put a 3rd one right on there. Keep in mind with stencils, you only have to use the parts that you want to. There is no rule. You are not obligated in any way to use the entire stencil at once. Now, I was stenciling wet over wet, and sometimes with that, you'll get little bits and pieces going where you might not want them. So that is black paint that got over on my nice blue part there. And it can just wipe right up with a baby wipe. Now, you're probably wondering, how does that wipe up so well? Well, that's because this is actually a whole bunch of spray paint all over this page. I had a hideously ugly page, and it was just so ugly, I kind of had to obliterate it. And so that's what that is. But that's why it's so glossy, it's so shiny, is because it's a glossy spray paint. And I have lots of ugly pages, but I have a certain way of dealing with them so that they don't end up becoming a problem for me. I actually embrace my ugly pages. I consider them all to be oopsies. But how exactly you embrace those, all that kind of stuff, that's something I go into depth and detail also in the Art Journaling Fundamentals workshop. So I played around with the placement, auditioned things here and there, and this is what I've come up with for where I think I want it to be. But I definitely want to bring in a little more color here because it's just not bright enough for me yet. So inside that marquee window, that's where I want to put some color. So I grabbed some pattern papers that I've made using stencils, and this one is from the Doodle It Bigger stencil by Maria McGuire. And so what I'm going to do is just put that behind it. That's going to give me my pop of color. And that first piece that I'm going to glue down here is this little sort of orangish piece. That is actually a little end piece from that original gel print that I had that I thought I was going to use so much of in this art journal page. I just used a little sniblet of it. Now when I'm doing something with a glue stick, if I've got a little piece like these little ones, then I'll just put right on top of the glue stick. But if I've got a more detailed piece or one where I want to make sure I've got all the parts of it, I will just take an old catalog that I've gotten in the mail and I will use that as a place where I can use the glue stick. That way it basically catches all the glue that goes off the edge and doesn't get my workspace all gunky. And then I'm just going to turn to another page when I do my next piece of gluing. Down below the video, I have links for you too to the shops for both Hidden Vintage Studio and Tumblefish Studio. That way you can check out all the fun printables that they've created. And if you're looking for those 3 specific sheets that I used in the beginning of this video, they are free for everybody inside Art Journaling Fundamentals. And of course, life doesn't always fit my creative whims, because what I would love to do is spend all day in my studio playing and playing, but as I'm looking at my clock, I'm realizing, I've got to run and get to an appointment. So I am going to get this stuff glued down, but I know that this page isn't finished. I know that I want to put a lot of color on here, and I've got a lot more stuff to play with on it. It really doesn't feel finished to me yet. So I'm going to go run my errands, take care of those things that I have to, and be a responsible grown-up, and then I'm going to come back and finish this page. So if you want to see how this page finishes up, what it looks like in the end, and you know there'll be a lot more color involved, then hit that subscribe button or head on over to my blog at acolorfuljourney.com and get signed up for my newsletter. That way you'll know as soon as the next part of this video is out so you can see how the color gets added to this. And thanks for letting me be a part of your colorful journey.